Alright, let's lose a game. Looks like there's a lot of resources here. Decent patch for a scavenger. There's some nice stuff right in here too. That's almost encouraging to go robotic in and of itself. Almost pushes me there. Let's check on aluminum though. It's looking a little sparse. Yeah, aluminum's not easy, but that means nobody's going to have great aluminum at least, so we don't really need to rush to it at all, because there's no good stuff. There's just some adequate stuff. It's very tempting to try and make something work in here, but I can't really get scientific in there very well. I can kind of make it work. It's a little awkward, but you've got access to those carbon tiles, you've got access to these iron tiles. You're lacking the water that you really want right next to the base. But it's still usable stuff, at least. It's usable stuff, so I'm tempted to try it out and see how it goes. We're waiting on the debt for a while. Not too interested in the spot overall. There are other places to get. Alright. There we go then.
Well done on finding it.
We'll just take the close aluminum just so we have it, basically. So we did not get a bonus for founding whenever we found it. Oh, and actually that's really frustrating. I was not expecting somebody to want those carbon tiles. That's actually quite bothersome. Alright, well aluminum jumped up massively in price, so we're not going to buy into that at all. Somebody's driven the price way up, and we don't want to have to fight over it to any degree. I was not expecting this right here. I thought I'd be able to use these carbon tiles that were right next to me for something later in the game. Not gonna happen. So the good news is we have aluminum and steel coming in quite nicely. We will be selling a bit of steel to get to our upgrade a little bit faster. We're kind of relying on the aluminum still. Thankfully we'll be able to sell aluminum down very easily and then transition these tiles without too much of an issue. It's interesting having made that claim. Did he buy a claim already? He did. Interesting. We'll go ahead and take the upgrade and then just start selling aluminum down, I think. And I think we'll take a couple of water tiles to maybe try and get out a couple of farms. I didn't sell my carbon or my silicon. I'm gonna have to watch for carbon to peak at some point. Try to sell it off. We're just gonna get a couple farms down, I think. Farms are fairly straightforward. The other scientist is also in farms, but with any luck it'll be okay. At least it won't have him tearing ahead of us if we're also in them. We just might want to do our sends a little bit more often than he does, or send them a little bit early. So a geotherm, I guess we could go a little ways on this. It's pretty valuable. We'll push to 20, and we'll probably call it there. I don't know if we want to go past 20, but 20 might be reasonable for the geotherm. 28 is really starting to push it, so I don't want to go past what we did already. These guys sending things out to try and get the tiles I already got, or, you know, they're just trying to take stuff in this general area, it looks like this one is. I did not... Oh man, I'm frustrated that I'm fighting with this scavenger now. I was not expecting to be fighting with anybody over what I was doing. We're also going to be late to glass here, unfortunately, because we've gotten those farms down. And because, as we can see, carbon is $5. Not really what we're after. But hopefully we can make it work. 40 glass is what we need to expand. Hopefully the 2 farms will be fine. And then we're going to need to figure out what to do at the next HQ level. We don't really want to get started on upgrades. We're going to need some kind of power, so it's very tempting to go ahead and build up a decent silicon stockpile so I can just get easy power down. The other option is to go for geotherms, but I don't know if that's really an option I want to take. I'm tempted to just do 2 solar panels. I suppose we could push to 3 solar panels and just make power for a while. I don't see anybody making power just yet. There's this one geotherm that's going to be going up, and that looks like it's going to be it. So it's very tempting in a lot of ways to go ahead and buy up all this silicon. Now I've got enough for 3 solar panels very easily, and I'm basically just sitting around waiting for the upgrade. If anybody else wanted solar panels, they wouldn't be able to do it. Nobody's going to be going for solar panels, however, because of course wind power is very straightforward for a lot of these players. They have access to that carbon. We could instead go for wind power, but we can't get a triangle. We're already kind of committing to this play. So we got hit by a power surge. No big surprise. The solar panels probably weren't the best idea this game, but we can still make it work. I'm almost tempted to put them up here so we can transition into silicon or glass as necessary. Alright, food's starting to come in just a little bit. We'll go ahead and sell that immediately. And we're just looking for this upgrade. That's all. That's all we want right now. It's a nice little upgrade. So do we go for the silicon up here? Do we want to take those tiles? It's tempting. I'll be honest. It's pretty tempting. We can expand fairly easily. We'll crash power if we drop 3 solar panels. Something to consider. Let's see. There's some decent silicon down here people already have. Maybe I don't need it and I can just take tiles right next to me. Could be alright. Another option is to go for a little additional steel. Just build like 2 solar panels. Sell down some silicon. Buildings are powered with water. Cold fusion. I don't know. It's decent. Cold fusion got buffed to the point where that's actually usable now. Hopefully we can make that work alright. I don't think we're quite making as much money as Asimov is over here with his farms, but we've been doing a good job off of the aluminum in particular. I think that's been kind of helping out a bit. Unfortunately, just low tiles, but still usable. Still usable for sure. And he's just gone into, it looks like, additional electrolysis reactors. I'm going to go ahead and bribe a claim now that I'm thinking a little bit more about things like the black market. And do I just take this silicon patch? Still an interesting question. I don't know if I really need that silicon patch, but I'm still quite frustrated that this carbon I got caught off from when there was just so much iron around everywhere. Very, very annoying. Very frustrating indeed. I could just get down a glass furnace. It'll make me money for the time being. I could just go into another solar panel, so I've got it. It's fairly cheap right now. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to take it. Unfortunately, this means I still will need to buy glass at a ridiculous cost. But I had the cash for it. So maybe it's not the end of the world. And I'm going to see if I can get into glass production at HQ level 4. Unfortunately, I'll probably be running behind Clark. Or sorry, behind Asimov, our scientific player. Clark is in our way. He also went for solar panels. I don't understand anything Clark is doing right now, if I'm honest. I'll go ahead and buy into that just a little bit, that shortage. Bradbury, I at least get a little bit better. All these guys are in fuel, and chems are skyrocketing, so it's also going to be very tempting to try and make a move into chems at some point. Let's go ahead and upgrade. I'm going to hit the glass first. And then I'm going to try and make that move on over to chems. I'm going to need to be looking for things like more claim purchases that I can definitely do. My debt's not bad, which is weird for me. The aluminum is still going reasonably strong, making decent money. The steel's only okay, it's not great. So this guy is transitioning out of his power. This guy has a geotherm. This guy has a geotherm. I can stop auto-selling power and see what happens with it. I could also scrap out like 2 of them. Go into some really, really strong chem production. Is very tempting. Just for the time being while power is so cheap. Just be like bam, bam, bam. I get a little bit of the carbon. Not what I was hoping for, but a little bit. The glass is fantastic. The chems are gonna be fantastic. We're going to actually grab a new claim again. And then bid on this one. Don't want to let my debt get too out of control. Everybody's been in reasonable control of their debt. Oh, I almost got that for 6. Oh man, people were just distracted enough they almost let it go. Alright, fine. I'll push it to say 20 or so. The rules are a little bit different for claims than the way they used to be because of the way high debt can just spiral out of control so easily. So maybe I let it go for 24 because there are also bribe claims still available. Pretty easily. I mean, 10,000 for a claim is reasonable. Not too bad at all. So this guy's also moving into Chem Labs. And this guy's boosted his steel, which I guess is kind of working. Oh, and there's a steel shortage right now, which is going to help him out tremendously. That's really frustrating. He didn't have any warning on that. There's no way for him to have warning on that. He's scientific, but at least we did our transitioning before it got out of control and ridiculous. So the chems are making nice money. The glass is making nice money. We kind of need another claim so we can set up an engineering lab. is definitely something I think we need to look at, and then we might just upgrade chems from there. Let's check Offworld. Oh no, we have a claim. What am I talking about? We got a claim at some point, and we were potentially going to use it for power, but we didn't. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up, even though chems are expensive, just because I'm making so many of them. And I think I can make it work. Okay, people still generally in electrolysis. This is probably going to be the last claim we're going to buy, that 14,000 claim. But I think it was worth it. I think it was worth it. Don't want to be upgrading right now with steel so ridiculously expensive. There is a water shortage. A rather serious water shortage that is going to lead me to do one of these. And then maybe I'll just take a last water tile with that new claim. Get a nice triangle going. I can upgrade. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the upgrade. I'm going to upgrade some chem production as well. 5 new claims with that. I could go into more water. I could add on a little bit of steel here. Should be fine. I'll have a nice group of 6 right here if I really, really want it. Then I could go for an engineering lab. I think we'll be fairly safe. Just right here. Maybe a little bit of power. Tempted to put it there, but that would be silly. I am burning through silicon, so another option is to just go for a couple silicon tiles up here. That leaves me with 1 claim left. Bradbury halfway to purchasing us, if he wanted to. I don't know if he's intentionally sitting on that ridiculous number of resources. He probably is. He could upgrade if he wanted to, or do a variety of other things. I doubt he's actually going to go for a purchase, but I am going to go ahead and start buying up some of my own stock during all of this. I imagine a big part of that was just this water boost that happened, which water is still doing very well. So we're going to stay in it for the time being. We'll bid on that geo. I think that geo would be fine. Debt is starting to get a little nuts, so we probably should go ahead and get that last solar panel down. Did I check Offworlds at some point? I kind of did. Okay, yeah, food is really good Offworld. Definitely important to note. We need to commit to a couple more chemical upgrades. Then I think we're going to actually buy an adrenaline boost. Now I want to test this out if I can. So we're going to commit to that last chemical upgrade. Oh, that didn't help with it at all, but still. Okay, so we got all of those queued. And then we boost. Okay, yeah, so we do have 3 chemical upgrades running right now, because the way the boost currently works is it allows for double production on those things. So I'm going to get out of this water and on over into electrolysis for the time being. Prices are all sky high, which is fantastic for us because we went into that research center. Should help out quite a bit, but we do need to be back into electrolysis by now. Let's see. Glass is almost certainly burning ridiculous amounts of money for the time being. So we're going to hop on out of it. Thankfully, we've got this silicon production down, which will help out quite a lot. And we could go into electrolysis or food. I'm tempted by food because there's a lot of people in that fuel production right now. Really shouldn't be any big surprise with chems being as valuable as they are. Now I think we're going to upgrade some steel. We're going to want to upgrade food eventually, but I think we'll do steel first, just for the time being. How did my debt get so high? This always happens to me. This always happens to me. My debt got ridiculous. Nobody else's debt got too ridiculous. Mine did. I know I was out of power for a significant period of time. I guess I'm generating nowhere near enough power for what I have down at the moment. I could scrap out of some chems. I could scrap out of, what, aluminum? Get down a little extra power over there instead. Try and help out just a little bit. I'm just always, I don't react to power well enough because debt, I still haven't gotten it in my head. After I could kind of ignore debt and power for the most part for such a ridiculously long period of time, I've never gotten it back into my head that, hey, you need to pay attention to these things. I don't know if I ever will. If I'm honest, I don't know if I ever will. Let's see. These are not doing well. Unfortunately, we're upgrading food production, but that's just not going to work out well for us. We can just go back into glass fairly easily at this point. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. Hit by giant EMPs, trying to pay down debt. Should try and buy into Clark just a little bit, if we can pull it off. Unfortunately, I wish we had the carbon for these tiles. It would make them so much better. We are generating a strong amount of chemicals at this point, but it's probably just not quite enough. Okay. So we could transition these back into water if we really wanted to, but they're making decent money now. So I don't know if that's the best idea to go through that whole process. These guys aren't going to be able to generate fuel all that long. It's just going to be Asimov actually making fuel for a while. Asimov and myself, so hopefully we'll be okay. 3 engineering labs down for that guy, by the way. I just want to point that out. Pretty ridiculous. Pretty ridiculous. That's how good the engineering lab is these days. For people who were not aware. It's pretty crazy building. Pretty crazy building. I don't even know what he's been upgrading. I don't know if he has been upgrading anything just yet. We could buy an EMP and see if we can shut some of that down just a little bit. Okay, so he's not defending any of them. That's important if we want to throw another EMP out at him. The glass furnaces are doing well. They would have done fine as water as well, but yeah, whatever. I think we're okay for the time being. I'm gonna upgrade food just a bit more. Maybe I'm just move these on into food. If I'm planning on utilizing an Offworld eventually, Bradbury actually just has that amount of cash. What is this from, man? He's got silicon coming in. He's got water. I guess water's just, once again, water's insane. I don't know what more to say about it than that. Just water's kind of nuts. And he's getting to use that fact quite effectively. Okay, but he's been way behind on expansions is part of what's been going on. So he's almost been relying completely on that water just to make anything happen for him at all. That's far more acceptable to me. Chems is still doing all right. I might... Well, the glass is kind of expensive for a transition into food. And food's not fully upgraded yet. So maybe I don't want to make a transition immediately. I am going to buy a network virus and keep an eye out for that. Don't know who exactly I would attack with it, but I'm sure I can figure out something. And I really should have bought a goon squad for these Offworlds at some point, but oh well. Debt is still ridiculous. I could pay some of that down. This silicon is not doing so hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transition that into power. Maybe I can move some of the rest of this around just a little bit into... Maybe into food, maybe just into glass. While glass is so ridiculous. Just go super hard on into glass. My stock price is so bad right now. Quite frustrating. We're going to go ahead and make that move into food over here. Keep upgrading things. What do we want to keep upgrading? We could upgrade glass even, actually. That might be acceptable. People are so close to being able to buy us. We're going to send food. That's the whole point of having the Offworld. Be able to do things like that. We're going to pay down all kinds of debt and hope that raises our price enough that we're going to be okay. So who was threatening to buy us? I think this scientist is who we need to worry about more than anybody else. So we're just going to attack him a little bit. Maybe transition some of this on over to food. Chems are still doing fine because we've upgraded them such a ridiculous amount. But I'm thinking it would be good in some ways to go ahead and move this more into food, more into food, more into food, more into food, basically. Because food, we are keeping food expensive, at least in part due to our Offworld launches. The cheaper food gets, the better our Offworld is. The more expensive food gets, as long as we have food production down, the better our food production is. So hopefully it'll be alright. We need to start looking at how much we need to buy somebody. It's going to be about 400,000 for Clark, 500,000 for everybody else, which we're still a long ways off from. But we're going to try and make this combination of buildings work. We should be making a fairly strong amount of money at this point. No question about that. Should be making a good amount of money. I'm going to queue up one more launch, and I want to make sure this works the way I think it will. So we're going to do something a little bit stupid and dangerous. There we go. Double food launches, because that's just logic right there is what that is. Immediately hit by an EMP. But over our chems, not over our boosted buildings, not over our food, which is actually our huge moneymaker right now. So hopefully it's kind of alright. We are potentially just going to go for a Clark buy, is what we're going to want to do. That gives us all kinds of fantastic territory right next to our base that we can easily make use of if we manage to pull off that buy. I don't think anybody else is anywhere close to it, and we're in a pretty good spot here overall. Well, Clark managed to pull off a buy on somebody else, so we're not going to be able to buy Clark. His debt is still insane. He's up at that. He's at that C rating. Bradbury is who we're going to be after then. He has another Offworld down, by the way. Bradbury does. Whoa, these are burning money. So much money getting burned in those. That was crazy. Let's just get into some iron mines for the time being, and aluminum, I guess, by accident, but whatever. So 490, there it is. We got that off-world launch done. That gives us 2 off-worlds to launch from, which we're going to go ahead and just start doing. And we got to look at what we got. So we've got electrolysis reactors down in here. Those chem labs are not ours, worth noting. Let's see, food production is fantastic. We're going to just start upgrading our electronics. And I'm going to see if I can... Nah, a boost isn't really reasonable for those, but maybe I can move into another engineering lab somewhere. Where can I fit one in, potentially? On top of this, aluminum might be a decent idea. Aluminum's pretty garbage. It's just kind of just providing adjacency bonuses for the time being. So hopefully that's alright. Now this guy's labs are working just fine. We're going to go ahead and freeze those. They are no longer scientific, so that's a really effective freeze on all of those. These farms, we're going to go ahead and move out of. Those other farms we might need to move out of as well. They're making $32 a second right now. We're going to go ahead and make those electronics factories. And hopefully be okay. So we've got 2 off-worlds launching consistently still. I don't think we need to build another off-world this game. Off-worlds are a bit expensive. We've got 2. We have more than enough food production. Oh, this is also food production. Okay, interesting. I didn't even see all that. I don't even want to know how much money it's losing us right now. So that, I think, is just going to turn into some water production for the time being, and then maybe something else a bit later. Power is still okay. Debt is still okay. Our stock price is way higher than his. Way higher. 673,000 is what we're sitting on right now. Now, he did just make a move into a couple off-world markets, so we want to go ahead and shut those down. That is a big commitment of resources, in any case, that he can no longer get back. So we're just fine shutting those down, and still not moving into our own, I think, because I don't think the game should last long enough for that to matter. We will go ahead and upgrade some carbon production. I think that's going to be our last upgrade. Are those 4 bits of carbon. Iron is still doing kind of okay. Chems should still be making money. Chems, I don't think have ever lost money this game. And I think we're pretty well set. I think we're good to go here. We've got his off-worlds frozen. That's just fantastic. Those are doing nothing. They're just sitting there consuming ridiculous amounts of money. Our electronics production is online. We're almost to that buy. So things are going a bit better today. Now, this was not a particularly difficult game because we almost never got hit by black market, right? But bigness to build your geo. Did I have a geo? Let's see. Let's go through chat then for just a moment while I look at these things. Why did I stop selling energy? Is that what the empty tile is? Build your geotherm. Did I have a geo? Oh well. Someone bought up silicon. I had a geo in GG. I really... All game. All game. Was I down? Oh, I totally did. Check that out. I won that auction. Cool. Oh, guys. Embarrassing. Well, chemicals were the name of the game there. As per usual these days. That's why I was so excited, honestly. That's why I was so excited to find this trio of carbon tiles I could use. Right next to a good source of iron and aluminum. It was just like, this is a scientific, fantastic spot right here with access to all these resources. There's also kind of like potential for robotic to just plant on top of all of these and go from there, but it's still robotic. But it would have been so good. Think if I could have ignored the carbon prices on these, how much even more money they would have been making before they got upgraded. Could have been quite useful. Yep, power in huge amounts of trouble with that. But we made a lot of glass, we made a lot of chems, we made a lot of food, and it was fairly straightforward, easy victory. Those were the things we were upgrading. They were very, very strong production. Now let's see where Blues was making his money. He's the one who was causing us problems. Yeah, he was kind of all over the place. I think we really took advantage a few times of the fact that as a scientific player, we just didn't have to transition. Like when we were just staying in electrolysis instead of moving all of these around into water pumps. in this little triangle here. Small things like that can make a huge difference in the game. Staying in steel all game long was kind of nice. Neither of us were producing a ridiculous amount, and we were both upgrading a lot, so... A lot of the game burning money on silicon and water-based stuff. That's a fair point, Blues. I think that happened to some degree. Although at some point I was burning like $400 a second per... I want to say per glass tile I had down for my 4 or 5 glass. I think it was 5 glass at that point, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that. So I'm going to go through here. This is a tab that I almost never check. I apparently built 66 buildings that game. How do I do this? Oh man. Omar Little built 19, Blues built 43, Cubit built 31. I guess we see what I do more than anybody else then, which is change my mind. Oh, that's ridiculous. That is a fair point, though. Who was our... It was Omar who was Asimov. And he just kind of found good spots and then never moved them ever. Like these, I think, were all game long. All of these. So that's 12 tiles that I think never changed. And I think he had these 3 here. I don't know if those ever changed. I think those might have been his. Man, interesting stuff. Tried to abuse your boosted glass furnaces by spiking silicon, but I forgot to network virus. That is just gross. That's why I hate network virus, actually, because that kind of thing, in my opinion, gross. It's like, man, you better prepare an EMP just in case you need to shut down those buildings. You did stay level 3 for so long, Cubit. None of my buildings went bad. Of course they didn't. Of course they didn't. You were a scientific player. That's the advantage of scientific. I don't take advantage of that fact. I always have to move my buildings around. It's one of my weaknesses. Alright, so let's check tech. Cubit was at 6. Blues is the one who survived to the end of the game. He was at 9. I was at 18. Omar Little was at 14. But apparently a lot of that was power. So it was basically like being at 10. In a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, that's like being at 10. Alright. Well. It was interesting. It was interesting. Sabotage targeting. Okay, yeah. We can see that I was not hit very hard by Black Market that game. And some of what I was hit by was just kind of edge stuff that was more targeted at Blues here. And it just happened to catch me as well. Plus, we were scientific, so what's it going to do? Alright, guys. I think that'll wrap up the first game. I'm trying to think if there was anything else important going on there. I don't think there was. Obviously, the Offworlds made good money for us. I don't think anybody else got a single launch off. So that was also kind of a big deal. Let's hop on out of there. And on into another.